speaking of the script, what was it like just shooting like that last mocap scene with Ashley? Like no spoilers or whatever, but just that last is that last moment y'all are going to be together shooting this scene. What was that moment like?
Man, that was a great day. It's a sad day. Um, there was not a dry eye on the stage. There's about 30 people on the stage,
Damn.
and it's one scene. That was an interesting thing. Is like there were a couple of scenes in there that I was like, "Holy shit, that was our entire morning." Like we worked an entire morning on one scene, or we spent the entire afternoon on one scene, and that was one of them. And that's the one thing that nobody ever wants to hear is that's a wrap. And you're like, "Oh wow." And I had just watched Nolan go through this with Uncharted, and I was giving him shit because I was like, ha 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 ha, because he always loves to hold court, but he doesn't want to be the center of attention when it's like a real moment. And all of a sudden I look and he's not paying attention on Uncharted 4, and they're wheeling the cart out with the cake and champagne, and I'm like, oh shit. And they're like, everybody, that's a wrap on Nathan Drake. And they're like, speech. And he's like, I just want to go to my car, get out of here. And so here it is. We're rapping on The Last of Us, and here comes the champagne. I'm like, I don't want to be here. And it was just like everyone just hung out because we didn't want to leave. And there's that picture that went up on Instagram or whatever of Ashley and I, and then the one of the three of us, me, Neil, and Ashley. And we had done something similar on part one. And it's just those kids in the first one and then the adults in the second one is how it feels like. I texted Ashley last night. I was like, there's so much life that has happened between that moment and this. It's just, it's crazy. What did I text her? See if I can at least paraphrase without spoiling anything. Um, I said, a lot of life has happened between that day and this. In so many ways, the story of this game and that journey reflects our individual paths. And I told her, I said, I can't say I'm blown away by your performance because it has the opposite effect. I'm pulled in closer and closer the further I go. Every choice is wielded with deftness and honesty. And she just, I can't say enough. Dude, Ashley is next level lights out. Next level lights out. These scenes, I can even talk. I mean, like the gameplay, woo, I have never in my life played a game where the gameplay, the mechanics are so character driven to where everything you do is driven by character. And tacked onto that, you are the one that's doing it. You don't have, there was one sequence where I was talking to somebody else and they were like, oh my God, dude, I got held up on here and it was just the big firefight and it's just crazy and I barely made it out. And I was like, oh yeah, I just threw a brick. And they're like, what? It's like, I threw a brick and went around. And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, you can completely go around. And you start exploring this world and you realize how many ways there are to play this game. And so right now the topic of the conversation is like so brutal and the violence is so brutal. I'm like, 2 comments on that. Number one, this game rests on a pendulum. And in order to reach the heights that it does, it must go to the depths. So in order to achieve that level of beauty, we must have that level of despair. That's how it works. That's the physics of emotion. So it's the most brutal game I've ever played. But it's not gratuitous. I don't know how they managed to do that, but it's so balanced. And secondly, you are in control. Ellie is not a empty character that you inhabit. She is a fully fleshed out character that you will at times be in conflict with or in even opposition to. But when it comes down to you being on the stick, you're in charge. And the thing that the game does so good is not rewarding you, but allowing you to be whatever version of Ellie you want it to be. It's crazy, man. It's some next level stuff. The gameplay is bananas good.